Chapter 1: Wrong Bed, Wrong Villain. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was an expanse of silk sheets that definitely did not belong in my dingy apartment. The second thing I saw was a pair of broad shoulders above me, followed by the sharp line of a jaw that could probably cut glass. And then, yes, the third thing I realized was that I was currently pinned down beneath a man who really resembled Adrian King, the cold-blooded villain of the novel I had been reading last night before passing out in bed. I froze. My brain did that annoying thing where it replayed the novel's key points like a highlight reel. Adrian King, 6'3", CEO of King Enterprises, rich, handsome, terrifying. In the book, this was the exact moment where the Cannon Fodder character, that was supposed to be me apparently, seduced him with lies, claimed to be pregnant, married into wealth, and then got completely destroyed once Adrian found out the truth. In other words, this was the doomed prologue of my miserable fictional life. "Oh, fuck no," I whispered. Adrian's cold eyes narrowed slightly. His voice was deep, smooth, and laced with that condescending dominance authors apparently loved giving their villains. "You woke up," he said, as if I was the one trespassing in his bed. My survival instincts kicked in. Step 1, don't follow the damn script. Step 2, escape before the villain turned me into toast. "Yeah, I woke up," I said, forcing a laugh that sounded like a squeaky chair. "Crazy night, huh? Anyway, thanks for the hospitality. I'll just see myself out." I shoved at his chest, but dear God, the man was solid as a marble statue. Adrian's gaze darkened, clearly misinterpreting my squirming. "Running away? After you've already taken advantage of me? Excuse me? Taken advantage of you? Buddy, you're literally crushing me under 200 pounds of CEO goes to the gym 5 times a week. If anything, I should be charging you for the chiropractic bill." My voice hit a high pitch. For a split second, his perfect mask cracked, just slightly, as if he hadn't expected me to talk back. In the novel, the Cannon Fodder simpered and played innocent. But me, I had no intention of role-playing my way into an early grave. Summoning all the strength I had, I twisted, shoved, and, miracle of miracles, actually managed to flip him over. Adrian King, the terrifying villain, landed flat on his back with a look of sheer disbelief. "See!" I shouted, standing on the bed like some half-naked revolutionary. "This is exactly why people do morning yoga. For moments like this." Before he could recover, I grabbed my scattered clothes, hopped off the bed, and scrambled for the door. Behind me, his icy voice rang out like a death sentence. "You dare." "Yes, I dare," I yelled over my shoulder, tripping into the hallway. "And I'll dare even more by never seeing you again." I didn't stop running until I was out of the mansion, barefoot, shirt inside out, clutching my pants like some deranged escapee. The cold morning air slapped my face as reality sank in. I was in the novel. I was the Cannon Fodder. I had just body-slammed the villain president of the story. And most importantly, I had no idea how the hell I was going to survive this. I dragged my shirt into place, panting against the brick wall of a nearby street. People gave me strange looks, but honestly, their judgment was the least of my worries. "All right, Ethan, new life strategy. No more villains. No more rich guys. No more novels." I muttered to myself, trying to catch my breath. I remembered the plot vividly. The Cannon Fodder was greedy, manipulative, and ended up ruined. Adrian King was merciless, cruel, and destined to destroy anyone who crossed him. But me, I wasn't going to be Cannon Fodder. I wasn't going to chase after him, fake a pregnancy, or beg for scraps. Nope. I was going to quietly blend into the background, live like an extra, and let the protagonists handle all the drama. That was the plan. A flawless, foolproof plan. Of course, I didn't know then that the story had already gone off script the moment I flipped the villain onto his back. And worse, Adrian King never forgot people who dared to escape from him. I'll admit it, my plan had a lot of flaws. But at that moment, standing on a random street corner in yesterday's wrinkled clothes, my heart still racing from the death glare of the novel's villain, all I could do was laugh weakly. "Congratulations, you've officially speed ran your way out of the prologue. Now try not to die in Chapter 2. I told myself. Chapter 2, Running Away from Fate. If there was one thing I had learned from binge-reading trashy web novels, it was this. Cannon fodder characters like me only had one job. Die spectacularly for the plot. And if I wanted to live, I needed to resign from that role as fast as possible. That's how I found myself a week later, working in a cafe that smelled faintly of burnt beans and broken dreams. "Order up!" the barista shouted, sliding a latte onto the counter. I adjusted my cheap uniform cap and plastered on my best customer service smile. "Here you go, sir. Please enjoy your overpriced caffeine." The customer gave me a weird look but shuffled away. I sighed. Another day, another paycheck barely big enough to buy noodles. Still, this was better than being anywhere near Adrian King. According to the novel, by now, the cannon fodder should have been glued to his side, fluttering eyelashes and fake pregnancy tests in hand. Instead, here I was, wiping tables, praying to every god I could think of that the villain CEO would forget I existed. After my shift, I collapsed into the wobbly chair of my rented shoebox apartment. The place was so small that if I sneezed too hard, I might blow the door off its hinges. But to me, this was paradise. No silk sheets, no terrifying CEOs breathing down my neck, no tragic cannon fodder fate. Just me, a ramen packet, and the smug satisfaction of not following the script. I slurped noodles and thought about the novel's timeline. The main characters, Adrian and the male lead protagonist, were supposed to be circling each other right about now. Adrian was meant to be icy and untouchable until love melted his villain facade. The cannon fodder was supposed to crash that romance by clinging shamelessly. But with me hiding in my shoebox, that entire arc had already gone off the rails. "Not my problem. Go have your plot without me," I told the ceiling. Of course, the universe has a sick sense of humor. The next morning, as I trudged back to the cafe, a familiar voice stopped me in my tracks. "You!" I froze. Slowly, I turned my head, and there he was, Adrian King, 6'3" of Armani suit and judgmental glare, standing on the sidewalk like a marble statue that had learned how to file taxes. He looked completely out of place in front of the cheap cafe, his presence making the peeling paint on the walls look even sadder. His eyes locked onto me with the same cold sharpness I remembered from that night. "Oh no," I whispered, clutching my apron like it was a shield. Adrian's gaze swept over me from head to toe, lingering on the coffee stains on my shirt. His lips pressed into a thin line. "Is this how you plan to hide from me?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. I laughed nervously. "Hide? From you? Don't be silly. I've just always dreamed of making minimum wage." He took a step closer. I took a step back. Customers nearby glanced at us curiously, probably wondering why the city's most powerful CEO was interrogating a guy in a coffee-stained apron. "Come with me," Adrian ordered. "Pass, I've got a shift. Very important. If I don't make coffee, society collapses." I said immediately. His eyes narrowed. "You think you can run from your responsibility?" "Responsibility," I repeated, my brain short-circuiting. In the novel, responsibility meant the cannon fodder lying about pregnancy. But I hadn't lied. I hadn't done anything except, well, that night. "Look," I said, holding up my hands. "I don't know what kind of weird rich people games you think we're playing, but I'm just a humble caffeine servant. You and me? We're from different planets. Please, return to your galaxy of penthouses and expensive watches." It was just a one-night stand, and nothing more. For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Anger, maybe, or something heavier. But then his face iced over again. "You'll regret refusing me," he said. I gulped. I wanted to say something clever, something defiant. Instead, my mouth betrayed me. "Can I at least finish my shift first?" That night, lying awake in my shoebox apartment, I couldn't shake the look he had given me. It wasn't just cold. It wasn't just angry. It was determined. And that terrified me. Because if Adrian King, the villain president, decided you were part of his story, there was no hiding in the background. I buried my face in my pillow and groaned. This is bad. This is so bad. I had broken the script, and the script was breaking back. Chapter 3: The Knock at the Door. For one glorious week after Adrian King showed up at my cafe, nothing happened. No assassins. No mafia goons. No press scandals. Just me, slinging lattes, dodging rent collectors, and convincing myself that maybe Adrian had gotten bored and decided to erase me from his memory like a bad business deal. I was wrong. Of course I was wrong. It happened on a Sunday morning. I had just microwaved yesterday's noodles and was preparing to eat them directly from the plastic container like the trash gremlin I proudly was. That's when I heard it. 3 heavy knocks against my paper-thin door. I froze, chopsticks halfway to my mouth. No one in this building ever knocked. I crept to the door, peered through the peephole, and immediately wished I hadn't. Adrian King stood in the dim hallway, a tailored suit sharp enough to murder me where I stood. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were cold and sharp. Panicked, obviously. I threw my noodles out the window, grabbed my jacket, and considered leaping out after them. But before I could execute Operation Escape through Fire Escape, his voice cut through the door. "Ethan, open it." My soul left my body. My landlord probably felt it float past him 2 floors down. I cracked the door open an inch, pasted on what I hoped was a casual smile, and squeaked, "Oh, hey, Mr. King, right? What brings you to this fine humble establishment?" Adrian didn't answer. He pushed the door open with one hand, stepping inside like he owned the place, which, knowing him, he probably did. I scrambled backwards, tripping over my table. "Listen, if this is about me quitting yoga class without notice, I swear I had good reasons." "Stop." His voice left no room for jokes. He adjusted his cufflinks with slow precision, then looked directly at me. "I'm pregnant." Silence. My brain shut down like someone had pulled the plug. Pregnant? No, that wasn't possible. Not him. Not here. Not in this story. I blinked. "Huh." His gaze didn't waver. I said, "I'm pregnant." I laughed, because what else could I do? "That's funny. Hilarious. You've got a great sense of humor, Mr. King. Really loosens up your terrifying villain image." Adrian's jaw tightened. "This isn't a joke." My smile dropped. My heart did an Olympic dive straight into my stomach. In the novel, the canon Fodder claimed he was pregnant to trick Adrian. There was never a plotline where Adrian King himself got pregnant. This wasn't just off-script. This was like setting the script on fire, scattering the ashes and dancing on them. I swallowed hard. "Okay, let's just, hypothetically speaking, say that's true. Why are you telling me?" His eyes sharpened. "Because it's yours." I choked on air. "Mine? Sir, with all due respect, there must be some mistake. Maybe the lab mislabeled the test? Maybe it was your evil twin? Or immaculate conception." Adrian took a step closer. His presence filled the cramped room, the air growing heavy. "You think you can run from this?" I stumbled back until I hit the wall. "Listen, I'm not, biologically, scientifically. Do you deny that night?" He cut me off. And just like that, my soul died again. Because I couldn't deny it. I remembered. The haze, the heat, the part of the story I had tried so hard to shove into the back of my mind. I groaned, covering my face with both hands. "Oh my God, I'm the father of the president's baby." This wasn't in the blurb. Adrian didn't react to my meltdown. He simply said, "You will move in with me, starting today." I snapped my head up. "Excuse me? You'll take responsibility. I won't raise this child alone," he said smoothly, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Hold on. We're skipping several important steps here. Step 1, me denying reality. Step 2, me fainting. Step 3, therapy. Step 4, Ethan, you're already part of this, whether you want to be or not." His voice dropped an octave. My mouth opened, closed, opened again. I felt like a fish trapped on land. This wasn't supposed to happen. Adrian wasn't supposed to be vulnerable. He wasn't supposed to be holding a life inside him. He was the villain, the heartless CEO, the man who crushed people for fun. But looking at him now, cold, proud, but with a shadow in his eyes. I realized something terrifying. He was serious, deadly serious. And if I walked away, if I refused, if I treated this like the story's cannon fodder had, Adrian would shatter, which meant the tragedy I had wanted so badly to avoid might just take a different form. I slid down the wall, burying my face in my hands. God help me, I muttered. Adrian gave a small nod, as if I'd finally said something intelligent. Good, pack your things. My car is waiting, he said, turning toward the door. My things? You mean my ramen packet and 3 socks? I laughed hollowly, gesturing around the shoebox apartment. But he didn't laugh. Adrian King never laughed. And somehow that made the whole thing even scarier. Chapter 4: Moving in against my will. If anyone ever told me I'd get kidnapped by a luxury car, I would have laughed in their face. But that was exactly what happened the morning after Adrian King declared he was pregnant with my child. I barely had time to throw my 3 worldly possessions into a plastic grocery bag before 2 men in suits showed up at my door, nodded politely, and ushered me into a black limousine so shiny I could see my terrified reflection in it. This isn't kidnapping, I told myself as the door shut behind me. Adrian sat across from me in the limo, perfectly put together in another 3-piece suit, as if he'd rolled straight out of a magazine. He didn't say anything, just sipped water from a crystal bottle while glaring at his phone. I, meanwhile, clutched my grocery bag like it was a bomb. Just so we're clear, I said nervously, I don't really own much, so if you were expecting some grand moving in montage, it's literally just socks and ramen. Maybe a toothbrush, if the bristles haven't collapsed. He didn't even look up. That won't be necessary. Everything you need has already been prepared. I blinked. Prepared? Like toothbrushes? Clothes? Food? Yes. My stomach twisted. Of course the villain had anticipated everything. In the novel, he controlled every detail of the cannon fodder's life. I had just voluntarily stepped into that cage. Great. Love being preemptively domesticated. I muttered. The limo rolled up to a massive villa on the edge of the city. Mansion? Fortress? Palace? Honestly, I couldn't decide. As we pulled up the driveway, I whispered under my breath, "Please don't have guard dogs. Please don't have a moat. Please don't have." The gates opened to reveal not one, but 2 Dobermans staring at us like they were ready to audition for Jaws, the land edition. I sighed. Of course. When the car stopped, Adrian slid out gracefully. I, on the other hand, tripped over my own foot, face planted onto the perfectly polished driveway, and lay there groaning. A man in a crisp suit, Adrian's assistant, if I remembered the novel right, approached and stared down at me. His expression was polite, but I could see the judgment simmering beneath. "Mr. Gray, welcome," he said. "Thanks. I always dreamed of being greeted like roadkill." I groaned from the pavement. Adrian's shadow fell over me. "Get up." I peeked up at him. Couldn't I just live here on the ground? It feels symbolic. His lips thinned, but he turned on his heel. Inside. Now. So much for symbolism. The villa interior was worse. It was pristine, cold, and breathtaking. Marble floors stretched across rooms so large I felt like I needed a GPS to find the bathroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a perfect skyline view. The furniture was sleek, minimal, and probably more expensive than my entire existence. And me? I stood there in my wrinkled hoodie, holding a grocery bag full of instant ramen. This is fine, I totally belong here. I'm a modern art piece called Trash in a Palace. I whispered. Adrian's assistant, Lucas, guided me upstairs to a guest room. Or at least it was supposed to be. When I opened the door, my jaw dropped. The room wasn't just prepared, it was personalized. Clothes my size neatly folded in drawers. Sneakers I'd only ever seen in online ads. Even my favorite brand of snacks stacked in the corner. I turned slowly to Adrian. "Did you research me?" He didn't answer, just crossed his arms. "Mr. King instructed us to ensure you'd be comfortable," Lucas said. Comfortable, right? Being kidnapped, installed in a luxury cage, and monitored 24/7. Very comfortable. Wow. Can't believe I'm living in a 5-star prison, I muttered. Adrian's gaze flicked to me, sharp. You'd prefer your shoebox apartment? Yes, but with heating, I said. Lucas wisely excused himself, leaving me alone with the human iceberg. We sat in silence for a moment. Or rather, Adrian sat with regal poise on the couch, while I sat cross-legged on the bed, munching nervously on a bag of chips I'd found in the drawer. Finally, I said, So, this whole living together thing, what exactly do you expect from me? Because just to be clear, I'm not cut out for domestic life. I burn water. I sleep till noon. I snore like a chainsaw. Adrian's eyes cooled further, if that was possible. I don't expect you to be perfect. I expect you to be present. I paused mid-crunch. Present? Like, physically here. Yes, I won't do this alone. His hand brushed lightly against his stomach, so subtle I almost missed it. My chest tightened. It was the first time since this madness began that he looked human. Not a villain, not a CEO, not an untouchable statue. Just a man holding something fragile inside him. I swallowed hard. For a moment, the jokes dried up. Okay, I'll be here, I said. His eyes flickered, just for a second. Then he leaned back, mask sliding neatly into place again. Good, dinner is at 7. Don't be late, he said. And just like that, the moment was gone. Later, lying on the ridiculously soft bed, staring at a chandelier that probably cost more than my organs combined, I couldn't stop replaying his words in my head. I won't do this alone. I'd entered this world as cannon fodder, doomed to ruin, doomed to follow a script. But Adrian King wasn't following the script anymore either. And maybe that scared me most of all. Chapter 5, The Art of Not Belonging. I woke up the next morning in a bed so soft it felt like sleeping inside a marshmallow. Honestly, it was terrifying. Every time I shifted, I sank deeper, and I started to wonder if this was how billionaires hunted. By smothering poor people with luxury mattresses until they suffocated. I stretched, yawned, and declared to no one in particular. Day 1 of living with a terrifying pregnant villain president. What could go wrong? Turns out, everything. First problem, breakfast. I wandered into the giant dining room, more like a banquet hall honestly, and found a long table lined with silver platters. An army of chefs and butlers hovered in the background. I sat down and waited, expecting maybe eggs and toast. What I got was art. They placed a porcelain plate in front of me, and on it sat 2 tiny pancakes stacked like architectural models, drizzled with gold flakes, and garnished with a single raspberry. I blinked. Where's the rest? The chef looked offended. This is the King family breakfast set. I stared at the sad pancake tower. Sir, this is a sample size at Costco. Do you expect me to survive on raspberry fumes? The staff looked horrified. And then came Adrian, gliding into the room in another immaculate suit. He glanced at my plate. Is there a problem? Yes, this isn't breakfast. This is foreplay. I pointed at the plate. Adrian's expression didn't change, but I swore I saw his lip twitch. Eat it. I sighed and obeyed, stabbing the pancake like it had personally betrayed me. Fine. But just so you know, my spirit animal is instant ramen. It's only a matter of time before I corrupt your fancy palace with noodles. Second problem, house rules. After breakfast, Lucas, Adrian's assistant, my new nemesis, handed me a leather-bound folder. Inside were 10 pages of guidelines for cohabitation. I flipped through them, horrified. No leaving dirty dishes in the sink. Okay, fair. No shoes in the house. Reasonable. But hello? No singing loudly after 10 p.m. What if I get inspired at 11? Am I supposed to hum into a pillow? Lucas adjusted his glasses. These rules are for Mr. King's comfort. I squinted at him. Admit it. You wrote them because you hate me. Not hate. Mild disdain. He gave a thin smile. Before I could argue, Adrian appeared in the doorway, one eyebrow raised. Is there a problem? I held up the rulebook. Yes, dictator. Am I living with you, or with the Geneva Convention? Adrian walked over, plucked the folder from my hands, and tossed it onto the table without looking. Ignore half of them. Lucas almost fainted. Mr. King, go prepare the car, Adrian said. Lucas stalked off, shooting daggers at me. I waved. Bye, Dad. Third problem, Adrian himself. Living with him was like living with a glacier. Cold, imposing, constantly in the way no matter what direction I turned. He worked in his office most of the day, but when we crossed paths, like in the hall or in the kitchen, I always felt like a mouse running into a very judgmental cat. Once, I was happily drinking straight from the carton in the kitchen when his voice cut through the silence like a guillotine. Unhygienic. I froze mid-sip, turned slowly, and found him standing there, arms crossed, glaring at me like I'd committed war crimes. I lowered the carton. What? No one else is drinking this. He strode forward, plucked the carton from my hands, and dumped it into the sink. Not anymore, I gasped. That was 90% off. You don't just throw away bargain juice. You'll get fresh juice, he said, turning to leave. That's not the point. That carton died for me. I yelled after him. But here's the weird part. Beneath all the clashes and rules and his terrifying aura, Adrian wasn't just the villain I'd read about. He checked the locks on the windows at night. He made sure there were extra blankets in my room. He even had someone stock my favorite cheap chips in the pantry. And sometimes, just sometimes, I caught him with his hand pressed lightly against his stomach, an almost tender expression flickering across his face before he masked it again. It was dangerous, because the more I saw that side of him, the less I could tell myself this was just a novel. The more I felt like maybe I wasn't just cannon fodder anymore. That night, lying in bed with a bag of chips balanced on my chest, I groaned aloud. Ethan Gray, you're screwed. I muttered to myself. Chapter 6, The Iceberg Gets a Cramp. If anyone had told me I'd one day be living in a billionaire villain's mansion, I would have laughed in their face. If they'd told me I'd also be babysitting said villain because he was pregnant with my child, I would have called the cops. And yet, here I was, sprawled across the world's fanciest couch, flipping through TV channels I didn't understand, while Adrian King sat at the far end of the room, looking like the human embodiment of a stock market crash. He was working, of course. Laptop balanced on his knees, papers stacked beside him, glasses perched on his nose. He looked flawless, which was unfair, because I was sitting right next to him wearing sweatpants. It was a quiet evening. Too quiet. I almost started humming the theme song to SpongeBob just to break the tension when Adrian suddenly stiffened. Then his hand shot to his stomach, his face tightening in pain. Hey? You okay? I leaned forward. He said nothing, jaw clenched, eyes shut. For a terrifying second, I thought he was about to keel over and die. And then what? Would I be arrested for villain slaughter? Adrian. I panicked, setting the remote down like that would help. You're not, like, going into labor already, right? Because if a baby pops out of you right now, I swear I am not trained for that. His eyes snapped open, cold and sharp, even though his forehead glistened with sweat. It's just a cramp. A cramp? That didn't look like a cramp. That looked like Satan reached up from hell and punched you in the intestines. I repeated. He inhaled through his nose, steady but shallow. I'm fine. No, he wasn't fine. For the first time since I met him, he looked fragile. The mighty Adrian King, brought low by something as human as pain. My brain screamed at me to mind my own business. But my body betrayed me. Before I knew it, I was sliding closer, awkwardly hovering like a socially anxious nurse. Okay, so what do pregnant people do when they get cramps? Do you need tea? A heating pad? An exorcist? His lips pressed into a line. I said I'm fine. Yeah, well, your face says otherwise. And before he could stop me, I grabbed one of the ridiculously overpriced throw pillows and pressed it gently against his stomach. There, pillow therapy. Totally medically proven. Probably. I said like an idiot. He actually blinked at me, startled. For a moment, I thought he was going to throw the pillow at my face. But instead, he let it rest there. His hand even shifted slightly, holding it in place. I swallowed. See? Comfort. Courtesy of Ethan Gray, amateur midwife. Silence. Heavy, but not unpleasant. Then, to my utter shock, his shoulders relaxed. The tight line of his mouth softened. He leaned back against the couch, eyes half closing, and whispered, almost too softly to hear, "Thank you." I froze. Did Adrian King, the Iceberg CEO, the man who could crush people with a glare, just thank me? I blinked. You're welcome. No charge for the pillow service. Though if you'd like to tip me in gold bars, I won't complain. His lips twitched. Not a full smile, but close enough that my heart did something stupid in my chest. Great. Now I was doomed. When he finally stood to head upstairs, he paused by the couch. "You don't have to stay awake for me," he said. I tilted my head. "Were you worried I was?" He didn't answer, just looked at me for a long moment with those dark, unreadable eyes. Then he turned and left, footsteps echoing against the marble floor. I flopped back onto the couch, staring at the chandelier. What the hell was happening to me? This was supposed to be simple. Survive, avoid cannon fodder fate, don't get attached. But then Adrian had to go and look human. Vulnerable, almost warm. I groaned, covering my face with a pillow. "Ethan Gray, you're screwed. Again." I muttered. Chapter 7, The Field Trip from Hell. If I had to rank my worst nightmares, going back to high school naked would be number 1. Number 2, being dragged into billionaire drama. Guess which one came true? That morning, I was happily sprawled across the couch with a bowl of cereal, watching a very serious documentary about raccoons stealing pizza, when Adrian appeared like a grim reaper in Armani. "We're leaving," he said. I blinked. "Leaving? As in, going outside?" "Yes." I clutched my cereal bowl like a lifeline. "But the outside world has taxes and judgmental people. I came here to escape reality, not face it head-on." His eyes narrowed. "Doctor's appointment. Non-negotiable." And that was how, 30 minutes later, I found myself stuffed into a car so sleek it probably cost more than my entire life, sitting beside Adrian, who looked like he was on his way to a shareholder execution. The doctor's office was, of course, private. No waiting rooms, no lines, just an entire floor dedicated to the King family's appointments. Still, the staff stared at me like I was a cockroach someone had let in. I could practically hear their thoughts. "Who's this guy in thrift store jeans and a t-shirt with a cartoon hot dog on it?" One nurse whispered too loudly, "That's him? The partner." I nearly choked. "Partner? Oh no." I leaned toward Adrian, whispering, should I be here? I feel like I'm ruining your rich person aesthetic." "You're fine," he said. "Liar." Everyone was looking at me like I'd stolen the Declaration of Independence. The doctor, an older man with expensive glasses, started the exam. Adrian sat stiffly on the bed, his usual mask in place, but I noticed his fingers tapping against his knee. Nervous. And then the doctor said, far too casually, "You know, Mr. King, at your age and with your condition, it's risky. Perhaps you should consider terminating." "Excuse me. What did you just say?" I shot up from my chair before Adrian could even react. The doctor blinked, startled. "I'm simply giving medical advice." "Advice? That sounded like you were suggesting he throw away my kid like it's last week's leftovers. You don't suggest things like that, man. What kind of bedside manner is this?" The nurse gasped. Adrian's head turned slowly toward me, eyes wide. The doctor cleared his throat. "It's a complicated situation. Mr. King's body." "Yeah, well, his body, his choice, and for the record, he's stronger than all of us combined. He could probably run a marathon while running a company while glaring someone into submission. Don't underestimate him just because you think you know better." I snapped, crossing my arms. Adrian King, the iceberg, the villain, the untouchable tycoon, smiling. Not the smirk I'd seen before. Not the faint twitch of amusement. A real smile. And damn it, it was unfair how good he looked doing it. "Ethan, sit down," he said slowly, voice low and warm. I collapsed back into the chair, mumbling, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Just saying what everyone was thinking. No one else had been thinking that, obviously. But hey, sometimes you had to bluff. After the appointment, we were back in the car. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows. Adrian sat with that calm, unreadable expression again. Finally, he spoke. You didn't have to defend me. Didn't have to, but someone had to. That guy was out of line. And I wasn't about to let you sit there looking like a tragic statue while he tried to convince you otherwise. I muttered. His gaze slid toward me. You think I looked tragic? Okay, maybe not tragic. More like a broody vampire in a soap opera. The kind that makes viewers scream at the TV. Another twitch at his lips. I see. I sighed. Look, I know you don't need me. You're Adrian freaking King. But if you're going to keep this baby, then I'm here. Whether I'm useful or not. His eyes softened just slightly. That's the first sensible thing you've said since I met you. I snorted. Please. I've said at least 3 sensible things. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was sitting beside a stranger. For the first time, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we were in this together. Chapter 8, MasterChef. I'd made a lot of bad decisions in my life. Wearing socks with sandals. Once drinking milk after eating spicy noodles. Accidentally falling into a fictional novel. But my worst decision of all? Deciding to cook dinner for Adrian King. It started with guilt. After the doctor's appointment, I couldn't shake what I'd said in the car. I'm here. It sounded noble in the moment, but what had I actually done so far? Occupy his couch? Critique his taste in pillows? Steal his Netflix password? So I decided I needed to contribute. Something simple. Something meaningful. Like cooking. Problem was, the only things I'd ever successfully made were instant noodles and toast. And even the toast had been questionable. But hey, how hard could cooking be? The mansion kitchen was the size of my old apartment, complete with shiny appliances that looked like they belonged in a spaceship. Okay. Oven, don't try anything funny. I muttered. I decided on spaghetti. Seemed easy. Noodles, sauce. Done. Right? Wrong. 15 minutes in, the noodles were stuck together like a rubber tire. The sauce had exploded all over the counter, and I'd somehow set off the smoke alarm without even turning on the stove. I was waving a dish towel in the air, coughing like I'd inhaled 10 cigarettes, when I heard footsteps. And there he was, Adrian King, my personal iceberg, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, looking down at me like I was a particularly chaotic stock market crash. What are you doing? He said. I froze, sauce-stained spoon in hand. Making dinner? His eyebrows twitched. Dinner? Yeah, that thing people eat at night. I thought, hey, maybe I should do something useful for once instead of just mooching off your luxury furniture. Surprise! Adrian stepped further into the kitchen, surveying the battlefield. Noodles welded to the pot, sauce dripping down the cabinets, smoke still faintly rising. His face didn't change, but I swore I heard judgment radiating off him in waves. You call this dinner? He asked. I call this experimental cuisine. He sighed, set his jacket on the counter, and rolled up his sleeves. Move, he ordered. I blinked. Wait, you cook. He didn't answer, just pushed me aside with the authority of a man who could probably take over the world if he wanted to. Within minutes, the kitchen transformed. His movements were precise, efficient, like he was conducting a symphony of pasta. The smell shifted from burning sadness to actual food. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Okay, this is unfair. You're already rich, handsome, powerful, and now you can cook? Leave something for the rest of us. Stop talking, he said. But there was no real bite in it. I grinned. We ended up sitting across from each other at the long dining table, 2 plates of perfectly cooked spaghetti between us. I twirled a forkful, suspicious. This actually tastes amazing. Adrian smirked. Of course it does. Show off, you didn't even measure anything. Just bam, 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 and suddenly Michelin star pasta. I bet Gordon Ramsay would cry tears of joy. I muttered around a mouthful. He glanced up at me then, and for once his eyes weren't cold. They were amused. Warm even. You're ridiculous, he murmured. And yet, I'm the reason you're smiling right now. I said, pointing my fork at him. His lips curved, just slightly, and my heart did that stupid thing again. After dinner, we ended up back in the kitchen, cleaning together. Well, he cleaned. I mostly got in the way. At one point, we both reached for the same pot at the same time, our hands brushing. I froze. He didn't pull away. His fingers lingered against mine, just enough to make my chest tighten. For a moment, the whole world went quiet. Just the two of us, the soft hum of the fridge, the smell of pasta still in the air. His eyes met mine, dark and unreadable but softer than I'd ever seen them. And damn it, I wanted to kiss him. I mean, really kiss him. Forget the accidental chaos of our first night. This time I wanted it slow, real, intentional. I leaned in just a fraction. His gaze flickered down to my lips. And then, the oven timer went off. We both jerked back like guilty teenagers. I coughed, rubbing the back of my neck. Guess that's done. Adrian calmly turned away, but his ears were faintly red. I grabbed the nearest dish towel and covered my face. Smooth, Ethan. Real smooth. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. What the hell was I doing? This was supposed to be a survival mission. Don't die, don't fall into cannon fodder traps, don't get attached. And yet, somehow, I'd ended up cooking spaghetti with the villain, almost kissing him in his multi-million-dollar kitchen. Chapter 9, the kiss I definitely didn't plan. Falling in love with the villain wasn't on my to-do list. Avoid death? Yes. Avoid humiliation? Always. Avoid becoming cannon fodder? Absolutely. But falling for Adrian King? Nope. Never. Not happening. So of course it happened. It started on a Tuesday. You know, that cursed day in the week where nothing good ever happens. I was in the garden, wrestling with a hose that had the personality of a vindictive snake. Adrian's doctor had told him to walk more for his health. And me, being the genius supporter I was, decided to create a peaceful, therapeutic outdoor environment. Translation: I was trying to water the flowers without flooding the entire lawn. Stupid thing, I muttered, yanking at the hose. It snapped free and immediately sprayed me in the face. I sputtered, drenched, and glared at the sky. Really? That was when I heard it. A low chuckle. I turned, and there he was, standing on the patio, watching me like I was the world's most entertaining circus act. His arms were folded, his expression amused. Are you fighting the hose? He asked. No, the hose is fighting me. Big difference, I said. Adrian raised an eyebrow. You're soaking wet. Thank you, Sherlock. Any other brilliant deductions? He stepped forward, and for some reason my heart skipped. Sunlight caught in his dark hair, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his eyes warm in a way I hadn't noticed before. Come here, he said. I blinked. Why? You'll catch a cold. I'm not a Victorian maiden about to faint from a breeze. Before I could finish, he was already taking off his jacket and draping it over my shoulders. The fabric was warm, heavy, and smelled like him. Clean, sharp, expensive. My brain short-circuited. Thanks, I mumbled. He gave a small nod, but his hand lingered a second longer on my shoulder. That was when it happened. The world went quiet. Just me, him, and the faint sound of water dripping from the hose onto the grass. His eyes met mine, and suddenly, it felt like the air between us had turned thick. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, like I wasn't just some nuisance who'd barged into his life, but someone he saw. Maybe it was the fact that I'd been trying so hard not to want this, and I was just tired of fighting it. Either way, I leaned in. So did he. And then we kissed. It wasn't like the chaotic, blurry accident of our first night. This was slow, careful. His lips were soft, warm, tentative at first, like he was testing if I'd pull away. I didn't. God help me, I leaned closer. The kiss deepened, heat curling through me in ways I didn't want to analyze. His hand slid up to the back of my neck, pulling me closer, and for once I wasn't overthinking, wasn't panicking. I was just there, with him. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless. So was he. I started, then immediately regretted speaking because my brain had apparently shut down. Adrian tilted his head slightly. Unexpected. Yeah, unexpected. Totally random. Just a Tuesday thing. Like tacos, but with more lips, I said. He gave me a look. The kind of look that said, "Do you ever listen to yourself?" I covered my face with my hands. Oh my God. I just compared kissing you to tacos. Kill me now. And then the impossible happened. He laughed. A real, low, warm laugh that made my stomach flip. You're unbelievable, he said, shaking his head. Yeah, well, you're kissable, I blurted, then immediately wanted to hurl myself into the nearest bush. His smile widened, and he leaned closer, his breath brushing against my ear. Say that again. Nope, not happening. Forget it. You're blushing. I am not. You are. I yanked his jacket hood over my face. This conversation is over. Chapter 10, the morning after. I woke up the next morning with one thought in my head. I kissed Adrian King. Not, oops. I tripped and fell into his lips. Not alcohol-induced mistake. Not even oops. I accidentally transmigrated into his bed again. No, this time it was deliberate, conscious, real, and I was doomed. I buried my face in the pillow and groaned. Great job, Ethan. Step 1. Don't be cannon fodder. Step 2. Don't fall for the villain. Step 3. Fail both steps spectacularly. I was still wallowing in self-pity when someone knocked on my bedroom door. Ethan, came Adrian's voice. Smooth, steady, dangerous to my sanity. I sat up so fast I nearly gave myself whiplash. Yeah. Breakfast. My stomach did a weird flip. Coming, I yelled, then immediately regretted my choice of words because it sounded way too suggestive. I scrambled out of bed, tripped over my own foot, and crashed into the dresser. So much for dignity. The dining table looked like a 5-star hotel buffet. Fresh fruit, pancakes, eggs, pastries, coffee. It was enough to feed a small army. Adrian sat at the head of the table, composed as ever, like he hadn't just kissed me into oblivion yesterday. I sat down across from him, trying not to look suspiciously at his lips. He glanced at me. You're quiet. Me? Quiet? Never. I'm just chewing silently in respect for the food gods. Adrian arched an eyebrow. Food gods? Yeah, they exist. Don't question it. I stuffed a pancake in my mouth before I could say anything else. He sipped his coffee, unbothered. Meanwhile, my brain was running 100 miles an hour. Should I bring up the kiss? Pretend it didn't happen? Make a joke about tacos again? No, bad idea. Very bad idea. Finally, I blurted, so, about yesterday. Before I could finish, the doorbell rang. Saved by the bell? Or cursed by it? Adrian's assistant, Lucas, walked in. Tall, polished, annoyingly good-looking. He was carrying a briefcase and talking about quarterly reports before he even sat down. Mr. King, the shareholders are concerned about. I zoned out instantly. Numbers. Boring. What I did notice was how close Lucas stood to Adrian. Too close. Like personal space, bro close. And Adrian didn't flinch. He just listened, nodding occasionally, his expression calm. Something ugly twisted in my chest. Wait, was I jealous? I crossed my arms and muttered, some of us are trying to digest breakfast here, not watch a corporate romance drama. Lucas gave me a polite smile. And you are. I'm the guy making sure he doesn't keel over from stress. I snapped before I could stop myself. Adrian's lips curved slightly. Was he amused? Lucas, reschedule the meeting for next week, he said. But sir, that's an order. Lucas stiffened, adjusted his tie, and left. The room fell silent again. I jabbed my fork into a piece of fruit. So, he's handsome. Adrian's eyes flickered to me. You think so? No. I mean, objectively, sure, but like, whatever. He's got boring tie energy. You know what I mean? I said. Adrian leaned back in his chair, studying me with that unreadable gaze. Are you jealous? I choked on my orange slice. Jealous? Me? Ha! Never. That's ridiculous. Totally absurd. Hilarious, even. His smirk deepened. You're jealous. I am not. You are. Shut up. Later that day, I tried to distract myself by reorganizing the bookshelf in the study, which was pointless because 1, I didn't read business books, and 2, I kept replaying the kiss in my head like it was a broken record. I didn't hear Adrian enter until he was right behind me. You missed a spot, he said. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped the book. Can you not sneak up on people like that? He stepped closer, so close I could feel his warmth. You're avoiding me. I am not. You are. Stop doing that. I snapped, spinning around, only to find him inches away. We froze. His hand brushed mine as he took the book from me and placed it on the shelf. Then he leaned in, his lips near my ear. You don't have to run, Ethan. My breath caught. I'm not running. Good, he murmured. Before I could say anything else, he kissed me again. It was softer this time, slower, but no less devastating. My knees went weak, my brain short-circuited, and by the time he pulled away, I was clinging to him like a lifeline. You're evil, I muttered. You knew that when you kissed me first. That night, lying in bed, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just attracted to him anymore. I wasn't just caught in the heat of the moment. I was falling, hard. And if the novel's original plotline was still lurking in the shadows, I had no idea what that meant for either of us. Chapter 11. Plotlines suck. If there's one thing I learned about living inside a novel, it's this: plotlines are like cockroaches. You can stomp on them, run from them, ignore them, but they always come crawling back. I had just started to think maybe life with Adrian could be normal? Okay, not normal, because pregnant CEO villain and transmigrated fan aren't exactly the stuff of slice-of-life dramas, but at least stable. Breakfasts together, arguments about whether I was jealous, kisses that made my brain go offline. Stability. So obviously the universe said, "Ha! Screw you, Ethan." We were at one of Adrian's company events that evening. A charity gala thing full of suits, gowns, champagne, and way too much perfume in the air. I was standing at the buffet table, contemplating how many shrimp cocktails a man could legally stuff in his mouth, when I heard her voice. Adrian. I turned, and there she was, Charlotte Wright, the original novel's leading lady, the one destined to be his fiancée before everything went to hell. Tall, gorgeous, elegant, the kind of woman who made you want to hide in a closet and cry about your lack of skincare routine. I froze, shrimp halfway to my mouth. In the novel, Charlotte eventually sided against Adrian, helping ruin him. But right now, she looked at him with concern, not malice. Charlotte, Adrian greeted, his tone polite but cool. She smiled faintly, then her gaze landed on me. Her smile faltered. And, you are. Great. Showtime. I swallowed the shrimp, nearly choking in the process, and straightened. Ethan, I said, sticking out my hand. Resident Chaos Manager. Charlotte blinked. Excuse me? Adrian's lips twitched. He's a friend. Just a friend. My stomach did a little flip I tried to ignore. Charlotte didn't look convinced, but she let it slide. Instead, she leaned closer to Adrian. It's been a while. You look, well. I stepped to the side, deliberately wedging myself between them. He's doing great. Eating well. Sleeping well. Not dying of stress. Thanks to yours truly. Adrian gave me a sidelong glance, equal parts amused and exasperated. Charlotte, meanwhile, raised an eyebrow like I was some kind of stray dog that had wandered into the party. Well, I'm glad someone is looking after him, she said. Her tone said the opposite. The rest of the evening was torture. Everywhere I went, Charlotte was there, talking to Adrian, smiling at him, casually touching his arm like she had the right. And every time, I had to resist the urge to yell, "Back off, lady. This is my tragic villain CEO. Go find your own plotline." Instead, I hovered awkwardly, sipping champagne like it was liquid courage and trying not to glare too obviously. At one point, she leaned in to whisper something to him. That was it. I snapped. I marched over, grabbed Adrian's arm, and said loudly, Hey honey, didn't you promise me a dance? Both of them froze. Adrian stared at me. Charlotte stared at me. Honey, Adrian repeated, his voice low. Yes. Honey, darling, sweetheart, muffin. My brain scrambled. Why brain? Adrian's lips curved in the faintest, most dangerous smile. Muffin? Don't kink-shame me. I hissed under my breath. Charlotte looked like she'd just bitten into a lemon. Well, I see things have changed. She excused herself and swept away, leaving behind a trail of expensive perfume and emotional damage. I finally let go of Adrian's arm, my face burning. Sorry. I panicked. Adrian tilted his head. You claimed me as your muffin. Okay, it worked, didn't it? She's gone. He stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of him against my arm. You were jealous again. No, yes, fine, I was jealous. Congratulations. Do you want a medal? I'd rather have another kiss, he said. My heart stopped. Before I could respond, he leaned down, brushing his lips against mine in the middle of the gala. In public, with witnesses, gasps rippled through the crowd. But I didn't care. My brain had exploded. My body had melted. And all I could think was, oh no, I'm in too deep. Later, in the car ride home, I stared out the window, my face still on fire. You kissed me. In public. Yes, Adrian said. Everyone saw. Yes. They're probably already writing gossip articles about it. Good. I whipped around to face him. Good. He met my gaze steadily. Let them know. I don't care. My chest tightened. Because in the novel, Adrian was supposed to be cold, ruthless, untouchable. But here he was, looking at me like I wasn't cannon fodder. Like I wasn't expendable. And that scared me more than anything else. Chapter 12 Background checks are evil. There are 3 things I've always feared. Spiders. Accidentally liking a villain who can crush me with one glare. Background checks. And guess which one decided to knock on my door after that public kiss with Adrian? Yep. Number 3. The gossip rags went wild after the gala. President King seen with mystery man. Adrian King's secret lover? Who is this nobody? That last one hurt. Nobody? Excuse me, I was at least a semi-functional somebody before transmigrating here. Anyway, Adrian didn't seem fazed. He strolled through his day, signing documents and sipping coffee like his private life wasn't exploding on every social media feed in the city. Meanwhile, I was stress-eating an entire family-sized bag of chips in his penthouse kitchen. Ethan. I froze mid-crunch. Adrian stood at the doorway, watching me with that unreadable look of his. What? I said, cheeks stuffed like a squirrel. They're going to investigate you. I swallowed hard. Who is going to investigate me? Everyone, reporters, rival families, business partners. They'll all want to know who you are, he said. I nearly choked on a chip. That's bad. That's really bad. Adrian, do you realize what's going to happen when they find out I don't have a background that makes sense? He walked in slowly, set his papers down, and leaned on the counter. His eyes met mine. Calm, steady, dangerous. Then I'll make it make sense. Make it make sense? Who does that? You can't just conjure a past out of thin air. Excuse me, are you planning to rewrite history? Like, abracadabra. Ethan's a secret prince of Luxembourg. One corner of his mouth lifted. Do you want to be a prince? That is not the point. The point is, I don't belong in this rich world. I'm not like you. I threw my hands up. Adrian stepped closer. His presence filled the room, steadying me even as I tried to flail my way out of this conversation. You belong where I put you, he said quietly. And just like that, my brain went fuzzy. Because what the hell was I supposed to do with a line like that? Okay, I muttered. But the real trouble came 2 days later. I was at a cafe near Adrian's office, trying to bribe myself with cake to stop worrying, when Charlotte appeared out of nowhere like a Disney villainess in heels. Ethan, she said, sliding into the chair across from me without asking. I nearly dropped my fork. Hi. She looked perfect, of course. Hair sleek, nails immaculate, perfume that probably cost more than my entire life savings. I've done some research. You don't have much of a record. No business connections. No society ties. No, anything, really, she said smoothly, sipping her latte. I gulped. Maybe I'm just private? Or maybe you're hiding something. What are you after, exactly? Money? Status? Adrian himself. Her eyes sharpened. I laughed nervously. Why not all three? She did not laugh. I leaned back, crossing my arms. Look, I don't know what you think you know, but Adrian and I were good. That's all you need to know. Charlotte's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You won't last. Before I could answer, a shadow fell over us. Adrian. He stood there like a storm in a suit, gaze locked on Charlotte. You won't decide that. Her smile froze. Adrian. Leave him alone, Adrian said, voice sharp enough to slice marble. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to argue. Then, with a flick of her hair, she stood and walked away. The cafe went silent around us. I sat there, staring up at him, my fork still hovering over a slice of cheesecake. So, that was fun, I said. Adrian's gaze dropped to me, softening slightly. Did she upset you? Nope, I'm totally fine. Not panicking. Not thinking about changing my name and fleeing to Canada. I lied immediately. He sighed, sitting down across from me. Ethan. Yeah. You don't have to fight this alone. And there it was again, that dangerous warmth in his voice. The part that made me want to forget the novel's warnings and just stay. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Charlotte was already suspicious. The plotline was pressing forward. Sooner or later, someone would dig too deep, and my fragile house of cards would collapse. But Adrian's words replayed in my head. You don't have to fight this alone. Chapter 13, The Breakup That Didn't Happen. In every romance story I've ever read, there's that one part where the protagonist makes the dumbest possible decision for love. And apparently, I'd decided it was my turn. The rumors weren't slowing down. After the gala kiss, after Charlotte's interrogation, after Adrian's grand, leave him alone moment at the cafe, things only got worse. Suddenly, headlines screamed, Adrian King's lover hides shady past. Unknown man leeching off business tycoon? Mystery pregnancy scandal? Yes, pregnancy scandal. Me. They somehow spun a theory that I was secretly pregnant and scheming for Adrian's fortune. If only they knew the truth, that it was Adrian carrying the very real bun in the oven. I laughed so hard when I saw the article that milk shot out of my nose. Adrian didn't laugh. You think this is funny? He asked, holding up the magazine. Yes, they think I'm pregnant, Adrian. Pregnant. Have they seen my abs? Non-existent. Yes, but not that non-existent. But the amusement didn't last long. Underneath the absurd gossip, a darker pattern was forming. Business rivals whispering. Investors questioning Adrian's judgment. Enemies circling like sharks. And that's when it hit me. This was my fault. If I weren't here, if I weren't messing with the story, Adrian wouldn't be under fire. He'd just be the untouchable, unshakable villain of the novel. Not this vulnerable man with people trying to rip him apart. So, like the responsible idiot I was, I decided to leave. It was late. Adrian was in his office, typing away like he didn't need sleep. I crept in quietly, rehearsing my little noble sacrifice speech in my head. He looked up immediately. His gaze softened the way it always did now when he saw me. And God, that made it harder. You're still awake? He asked. Yeah. I needed to talk to you, I said, shoving my hands in my pockets. He set his pen down. Go on. I took a deep breath. Showtime. Adrian, this thing between us is not good for you. Look at everything that's happening, the rumors, the business pressure, the constant drama. I'm dragging you down. His brows furrowed. You're not. Yes, I am. I blurted. I'm nobody, Adrian. Nobody. I don't have the pedigree, the power, the connections. You'd be better off without me. Silence. Then he stood, slow and deliberate, and crossed the room until he was right in front of me. Say that again, he said quietly. My throat went dry. Why you'd be better off without me? His eyes darkened, and before I could blink, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me against him. Don't you dare decide what's better for me, he said, voice low and sharp. My brain short-circuited. I what? No, you don't get it. I'm trying to save you. Save me? Ethan, you are the only thing I don't want to be saved from. His grip tightened, and just like that, I was done for, completely ruined. Because who the hell says things like that with a straight face? That's not fair, I muttered, staring at his chest because looking at his eyes was too much. He tilted my chin up until I had no choice. Neither is you trying to leave me. I wish I could say I resisted, that I stood firm in my decision to nobly exit stage left. But then he kissed me. It wasn't tentative this time. It was fierce, desperate, full of all the emotions neither of us wanted to say out loud. His mouth claimed mine like he was anchoring me to this world, and maybe he was. I melted. Of course I did. My hands clutched at his shirt, pulling him closer, because how could I not? When we finally broke apart, gasping, he pressed his forehead to mine. You think I care what they say? He whispered. Let them talk. Let them dig. I don't care. I only care about you. Chapter 14, the day my world stopped. I always thought the scariest thing in this world was dying as cannon fodder. Turns out it was watching Adrian go pale and clutch his stomach in the middle of a business meeting. It started like any other day. Adrian dressed to kill in one of his tailored suits, looking like a god descending into a boardroom. I, meanwhile, looked like his slightly disheveled assistant, because no matter how much money he spent on my wardrobe upgrades, I had the uncanny ability to wrinkle shirts just by existing. Anyway, I sat in the corner, pretending to read notes when really, I was playing Count How Many Executives Are Secretly Terrified of Adrian. Answer, all of them, as they should be. Adrian was in the middle of ripping someone apart, in the calm, elegant way only he could, when he froze. His hand tightened on the table. His face drained of color. At first, I thought maybe he'd spotted a typo on a contract. But then he swayed. Adrian. I was on my feet in seconds. He didn't answer. His other hand went to his stomach, and his jaw clenched in pain. Meeting adjourned. Everyone out. I yelled at the stunned executives. They scattered like cockroaches. I turned back just in time to catch Adrian as he sank into his chair, sweat beading at his temple. Adrian, talk to me. Are you okay? Is it the baby? Oh my God. Is the baby coming early? I didn't take the birthing class. I only watched one YouTube video. He shot me a look, even through the pain. Ethan. Right, less panicking, more helping. I half carried him to the car, barking at the driver to break every traffic law in existence. By the time we reached the hospital, my shirt was soaked with Adrian's sweat and my brain had spiraled into 50 catastrophic scenarios. In the ER, they whisked him away, leaving me pacing the hall like an anxious golden retriever. Every worst-case thought hit me at once. What if this was it? What if the story decided this was where the villain turned vulnerable finally got crushed? What if my meddling had doomed him instead of saving him? My knees gave out, and I slumped onto a chair, burying my face in my hands. For the first time since arriving in this world, I felt utterly powerless. A doctor finally came out, clipboard in hand. Family of Adrian King? I jumped up. That's me. He's stable. The pain was from strain and exhaustion, but the baby is healthy. He needs rest and reduced stress. Relief crashed over me so hard my legs nearly gave way. Oh, thank God. You hear that, universe? He's fine. Take your plot twists somewhere else. The doctor gave me a look like I needed my own psychiatric ward, then walked off. I rushed into Adrian's room. He lay in bed, pale but awake. When he saw me, his lips twitched in the tiniest smile. You look like you fought a war, he murmured. I did, against panic, anxiety, and at least 3 vending machines. Don't ever do that to me again, Adrian, I said. I'll try not to. I swallowed hard, grabbing his hand. I mean it. You scared the hell out of me. I thought I was going to lose you. My voice cracked. His grip tightened. You won't. But what if I do? You're the one carrying a baby while fighting off a pack of corporate wolves. You push yourself too hard. You don't sleep. You don't eat right. I blurted. He gave me a flat look. Says the man who thinks instant noodles are a food group. Not the point. I can't lose you, Adrian. I can't. I snapped, then groaned, pressing my forehead to our joined hands. Silence. Then his thumb brushed the back of my hand. You won't because you're not leaving my side. Ever. He repeated firmly. And in that moment I decided something. Screw the original plot. Screw being cannon fodder. Screw anyone who thought I didn't belong by his side. If the universe wanted to throw challenges at Adrian, fine. But they'd have to get through me first. Chapter 15 Happily Ever After, cannon fodder style. I always thought happily ever after was for fairy tales. Princes kissing sleeping beauties, dragons being slayed, that sort of thing. Not me. Definitely not cannon fodder extra Ethan Gray. But life had a twisted sense of humor, because there I was, standing in the middle of a hospital corridor, face to face with Charlotte, the so-called heroine of the original book. She looked perfect, as usual. Tailored dress, glossy hair, confidence radiating off her like she owned the place. In her hand was a folder thick enough to be used as a murder weapon. Step aside, Ethan, this is between Adrian and me, she said. I crossed my arms. Nope, wrong answer. This is between Adrian, the baby, and his very tired, very underpaid emotional support human. Me. Her smile sharpened. You think you can protect him? You're nothing, Ethan. Just a worthless existence. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. You don't scare me, Charlotte. Adrian doesn't need your games. He doesn't need your folder of fake evidence. He needs peace. He needs trust. And, most terrifying of all, he needs me. Her eyes narrowed. You're delusional. Maybe, but at least I'm the kind of delusional who stays up all night holding his hand when he's in pain, who rushes him to the hospital when he nearly collapses, who doesn't care if the world laughs at us because he's a billionaire president and I'm, well, me. I admitted. For once, Charlotte had no comeback. She turned on her heel and stalked away, heels clicking like an angry metronome. I exhaled shakily, only then realizing my knees were trembling. Holy crap, did I just win a showdown? Somebody give me a medal before I pass out. When I walked back into Adrian's room, he was awake, propped against the pillows. His sharp eyes studied me with an unreadable expression. You heard all that, didn't you? I muttered, sinking into the chair by his bed. I did, he said. Great. So now you know I'm a loudmouth idiot who picks fights with pregnant billionaires' ex-fiancées in hospital hallways. What a resume. But instead of laughing, he reached out and took my hand. His grip was steady, warm, grounding. Idiot, you defended me, he said. My throat tightened. Of course I did. Who else is going to? You think those sharks in suits care? They'd eat you alive the moment you showed weakness. And I can't let that happen. Not to you. Not anymore. For a long moment he just looked at me. And then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't catch it, he whispered, Stay. With me. Always. I stared, brain short-circuiting. Wait. Was that a proposal? Because if it was, I didn't exactly prepare a ring. I mean, I could get you a vending machine snack, but he tugged my hand, pulling me closer until I was leaning over the bed. His eyes, usually so cold, so distant, were burning. Ethan, stop talking. And then he kissed me, soft at first, hesitant, then deeper, hungrier, like he was pouring every unspoken word, every repressed emotion, straight into me. My brain went blank. My heart went nuclear. My knees nearly gave out, but luckily, I was already leaning on the bed. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless, grinning like an idiot. Well, if that's what happens when I shut up, I'll consider doing it more often. Adrian's lips twitched into the faintest smile. The real kind, not the icy corporate mask. And I realized then that no matter what the book had originally planned, this was our story now. Months later, the day finally came. I paced the hospital hallway, nearly tearing my hair out as nurses rushed in and out. "Sir, please sit down." One of them scolded me. I was still mid-rant when the doctor finally emerged, smiling. "Congratulations. Both are healthy." My chest caved in with relief. I rushed inside. Adrian was pale but glowing, cradling the tiniest, squishiest bundle I'd ever seen. He looked up as I entered, and for the first time, his cold, guarded expression was gone, replaced with something so soft it almost broke me. "Ethan, meet our son," he said. I staggered closer, peeking at the baby. A tuft of dark hair, the tiniest fist waving around like it was already threatening the stock market. "Oh my God, he's already scarier than both of us combined," I whispered. Adrian actually laughed. A small, tired sound, but real. I sat on the edge of the bed, wrapping an arm around him and the baby. "We did it, you and me, just us," I murmured. He leaned his head against mine. "Just us." And as our baby let out a squeaky cry, I realized maybe, just maybe, Canon Fodder could get a happily ever after too.